Okay, Karen, so I want to talk about self-compassion, and I want to ask you, tell me about what self-compassion is, what you define it, how you describe it.
So I'll give you a definition that I like, that I've adopted. Of course, there are many. So for the definition I like, there are three keys. The first one is about being kind to yourself versus being judgmental. So it's about a number of things. It's about support and comfort in the moment. There is a piece of suffering, whatever it might be. Not being able to find where your file is on your computer is a small example, right the way through to something really significant. But the practice of being kind to yourself, what I've learned, it also reduces the number of times and the power of suffering that comes in the future. The second key of self-compassion is the piece about being part of humanity. So if I am suffering, if you're suffering, to know that we're not alone we're not isolated in our suffering. So if we're going to use the example of not being able to find a file in the computer, I like to know that I'm in a club where lots of people are challenged by IT and technology. I'm not the only one that might struggle with IT and technology. And that's a small example, of course, that we deal with all the time at work. But, in the bigger picture in life, if there's something more significant going on, I also find it really helpful to know that my feelings and my experience are shared with the rest of humanity, if you like, that every single being on the planet has their forms of suffering, has their forms of pain, has their forms of frustration, and and also their disappointments. And the third piece of self-compassion is consciousness, if you like, or mindfulness around having the optimum balance of feeling feelings and but not being overwhelmed by them. So there's no suppressing, there's no overwhelm. So to allow feelings to come in when they come in, whatever the situation, it's tempting to go into, for many of human beings, to go into distraction or avoidance or suppression. But the secret of self-compassion, I've learned, is allowing the feelings in, holding the feelings, and giving compassion to the parts of myself that are experiencing that suffering, that anger, that disappointment, or that pain. So, Steve, what about you? What is your definition of self-compassion?
Well, I thought that was a great answer, Karen. I suppose for me, I would add something about the need to be intentional and proactive. And when I talk about self-compassion from a leadership perspective, I often talk about intentional and proactive self-care. So I think there's something about intention. If we are to lead others well, we need to intentionally make space to care and support them. So my question I'll often ask others is, how are you making that space for yourself in order for you to be mindful, to be intentional, to consider how you are, how well you are, be intentional about the time and space you create. So that would be my addition to what I thought was a great summary. So yeah, thanks very much for that.
Thanks for yours, and I'm looking forward to our next chat in our next video.
Great, have a good day.
And you.